Hey everyone, thanks for coming out to my lecture on Monday the 13th on Mary Johnson and her modern art collection. I made a mistake though when talking about Mary Hanna. Mary Hanna's father is not Senator Mark Hanna, rather it's Henry Hanna. I've updated the next slide. Take a look at it. It walks you through that. After that, there was a really good question that was asked about source materials. And I thought this might be an appropriate time to introduce some of the source materials I use in putting these together. But as you can see, occasionally mistakes are made. Thanks for hanging in there. Check out this video and hope to see you again. Bye. The third member of the group is Mary Hanna. Mary was never married. She loved studying musical performance from an early age. In her youth, she was known as throwing an excellent party. Her Mardi Gras parties were famous. Her life would change in 1905 at the age of 45 when her father, Henry Hanna, died. Henry Hanna is not to be confused, especially by me, with the Cleveland political kingmaker, Senator Mark Hanna. Henry Hanna was like a regional Warren Buffett with vast and diverse commercial interests in banking, coal, iron, railroads, gas, electric, telephone, and real estate. He left behind an estate of about $150 million, give or take. Henry Hanna and David Sinton, you'll remember, was Anna Taft's father, were brother-in-laws. Both were said to have worked out of offices that were furnished no more luxuriously than the average automobile garage. In other words, they were not known as having extravagant offices, certainly compared to someone like J.P. Morgan in New York on Wall Street. Henry Hanna used to frequent the Cuvier Club, later the Cuvier Press Club, which is now located in the old Fleischheimer Mansion on 22 Garfield Place. In 2006, it served as the home of Cincinnati-based design firm LPK. There, he and fellow Irishman Pat Roach loved telling each other stories and jokes. Here's an example. Hanna: Pat, I heard that there are 100,000 Irishmen that are willing to take up arms today and fight for Irish independence. Roach: Well, Henry, why don't they? Hanna: Because, Patty, the police won't let them. After his passing, she became a prominent philanthropist and lived in a 10,000 square foot mansion in Hyde Park that her father began building her before he died in 1905. The house was big enough to serve as the movie set for the family home in the exquisitely directed film Carol. Now, Carol takes place in 1952, is set in New York, where there's a complicated sexual relationship that begins between a married woman in the throes of a divorce, played by Cate Blanchett, in the background, and a Manhattan shop girl, Rona Mara, in the foreground. Mary was publicity shy. In the summer of 1946, the president of CAM's board of directors announced Mary's Hanna no strings attached princely gift to CAM of 34 European paintings by masters such as Frans Hals, Rembrandt, Edgar Degas, Gainsborough, Renoir, J.M.W. Turner, Mary Cassatt, etc. She too would donate a wing to the CAM to house it. At the time of the announcement, she arranged to be out of town at one of her vacation homes. Now, most likely it would have been her home in Kennebunkport, Maine, rather than their Florida home, where it would have been too hot. There's a wonderful story of the director of the museum, Philip Adams, courteously attending to an elderly Mary Hanna during a visit to the museum in later years. Now, when Mary arrived, she was in a meeting and he caught up with Mary when, in a wheelchair, she was viewing one of her most expensive paintings. It had been absent from the museum walls for a number of months. Director Adams apologized that it had been gone so long and explained because of its tremendous value. It had recently gone through an extensive restoration and conservation process. Mary asked the director to bend down to her wheelchair so she could speak to him. Philip, I gave those paintings to you, to the museum, and to the citizens of Cincinnati. But frankly, I don't care what you do with them. Sell them for all I care. Thank you, Philip. Now I'm going to get on along with my tour with my aide. Generosity, no strings. Yesterday, that I feel I could have done a lot better job answering. The question was, hey, Steve, what's the source material for some of these stories you're telling? Well, let me take you through 2 slides that included a couple of anecdotes and share some of the footnotes and source materials. The first is the story I just told about Mary Hanna telling museum director Philip Adams once while visiting the museum that she didn't care whether Philip sold the paintings or the museum sold the paintings for all she cared. I initially found this, I think, in a series of long handwritten notes on yellow legal pad in one of the subject files in the Cincinnati archives. I then learned that this was a hand transcription of an interview with the museum director himself. So he told this story. The source of these notes is from an audio interview recorded in his home for a Smithsonian oral history project. Now you should be able to find the audio recording online at the Smithsonian's site, referred to as the Archives of American Art. I was later sent a typed transcript of the original interview by Jenny Harding at the Mary Schiff Library, who I give special thanks to yesterday in my opening remarks to the lecture. Here's some background on the story I told the other day about the negotiations between the Seligman Gallery in New York and Mary on the purchase of these 2 paintings. I think I first got on the trail of these negotiations at the Cincinnati Art Museum, and there were some subject matter files in the archives that I started discovering some notes. I was also fortunate enough to be able to access the Princeton University's Proctor archives. Mr. Proctor, William Alexander Proctor, was an alum of Princeton, and that helped piece some of this together. You can see reading some of these quotes that it was a give and take going back and forth. Mary walks away. This first one, I can't ever consider this Van Gogh at this price, and the gallery coming back saying, hey, your buddy Charmian brought in Mrs. Matthews the other day. It's a great painting. I'm glad I can offer you at a discount. And then Mary playing games and coming back again, saying, look, I've decided to buy these paintings, if we can agree upon a price. So that's where that story came from. It wasn't an actual conversation, but it's supported by these letters that went back and forth, just trying to tell that story a little more actively and in a more interesting fashion. In the future, I plan to put a lecture together for each of these great art collectors. The one I'm going to start with next is Mary Hanna, because obviously I don't know that story as well as some of the others. So watch your upcoming Olli catalogs. If anyone has any additional questions or any information you might have about these women that would add to their stories, please don't be shy about emailing me at stevedalbert@gmail.com. Hope to see you guys all again.